Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack here. Tuesday now, November 5th, 2024. The day has arrived. What an important day for the United States. But you know what? The tropics, the weather, any of that, nature doesn't care. It's going to continue to do what it's going to do despite any shenanigans that we have going on in our lives. And with that, boy, we're going to have a very busy November. When all is said and done, I do believe we've already got Rafael out there. We got another system that looks like it might try to develop. That could eventually become Sarah. And then the GFS, which has done a really good job this year at picking up on activity before it gets going, the genesis phase, if you will. GFS sniffing out another system trying to develop in the Western Caribbean not too far in the future. So a lot to talk about for sure. I want to check one thing. Just want to make sure my audio is working, and it is. I got that little status bar right there that I can make darn sure that we have audio. That's very important, obviously. All right, now that that is checked, let's get on with it. Show you what we got out there. National Hurricane Center, always a good starting point. There's Rafael as of the 1 p.m. intermediate advisory. 50 knots or 60 miles per hour. And what did it do? Just refresh or something? That was weird. 60 miles per hour, 994 on the pressure, and it's definitely getting better organized. I'll show you that as we go forward. Meanwhile, we have this next disturbance coming along. Not yet an invest area, but that's coming, I do believe. Up to 30% chance for development now. And we can look at this on the 7-day outlook. It's part of the thumbnail for today. And this is going to skirt along the north side of the Greater Antilles over here, and some of the model guidance is trying to suggest that this does develop, so that could give us another name storm as we go forward. Here's everything, a different perspective, lots of different satellite views that are available out there. This is one of them. I guess we'll use red to make everything pop. There's Rafael in the Caribbean Sea. This is some of the energy that's going to try to eventually develop, it looks like, into another system. And then we got to watch all this energy sitting out here, innocuous as it may be right now. Some of this energy could make it over into the Caribbean Sea eventually, and that favorable MJO and just the favorable time of year, climatologically speaking, yes, we could get more development. And I think there's a really good chance here by the time we're done with Rafael, and then maybe this next system tries to develop, that we could really kick the ACE score, the accumulated cyclone energy, into hyperactive stats. So that's important because there was a period there, obviously you remember, where we're about 20 days or so where there was just nothing, and it looked like the hurricane seasonal forecasts were all going to just be disastrous. Well, that has turned around in quite rapid fashion since basically mid to late September, and you've seen the results of that. We had very devastating Helene, Milton on top of that. Now we're going to have Rafael, hopefully not too devastating, obviously. We don't want that. But the season has really turned around. We had Oscar out there, more activity coming, and it just goes to show you can't necessarily call a game, so to speak, in the second half. You have to wait for everything to get played out, and in the case of Mother Nature, there's always these surprises waiting for you. It does seem. The first surprise being there was this weird pause. All that dry, stable air that was out there, the lack of instability. It was a very stable period of time for a few weeks. Now that switch has been flipped. It has stayed flipped, and things have been really busy pretty much continuously with just a few breaks here and there. And it looks like it's going to continue right on through the 6th month of the hurricane season here, also known as the month of November. All right, close up of Rafael, definitely starting to get that look now. This is concerning, especially for our friends over here in the Cayman Islands, the eastern part, Little Cayman and Cayman Brac. This very evident banding. Once all of this fills in, that core looks like it's trying to develop. This could go in and become a hurricane pretty quickly. And look, the Cayman Islands are built for these things. They are no stranger to tropical cyclones. But I just want to remind people, now there's not a lot of people that live on the eastern side of the Cayman Islands over here, fortunately. But when something is coming in that is on the upswing, the effects are a lot more pronounced. It's just been my experience. When they are strengthening, those downbursts tend to be more pronounced, more noticeable. The wind stabs, all that stuff. Yeah, you got to be really bracing for that if you're down in the Cayman Islands, these easternmost, what they call the sister islands. Now, as for Grand Cayman itself, over here, the small nature, the compact size of Rafael should keep the worst of the weather away from Grand Cayman. But look at Jamaica, too. We don't want to ignore this. Look at these deep thunderstorms coming right up over Jamaica. Very deep convection, lots of rainfall over here, and they do have the orographic lift, some hilly terrain over there, so probably some flash flooding issues. And that's a big problem with these systems down even in the lush and tropical Caribbean. Looking at the radar here out of Grand Cayman, I was here. I actually visited this very office, the National Weather Service in Grand Cayman, back in July. My friend, who I've known on the internet for a long time, Adam McDoom, invited me down. We've been working on it for years. Went down and we donated a couple of these GoPro systems so that he could set them out in the event of a hurricane landfall. And while it's going to be the eastern islands over here that get the brunt, Adam is working to set those cams up in Grand Cayman. Testing is always good. That's how we've gotten good at what we're doing and what we've done for years. But look, there's the center, and it is starting to wrap up. You can see that curly Q shape to it from satellite, also evident on radar. And this is cool. You can kind of zoom in and see some of these squalls that are headed in toward Grand Cayman itself. From what I understand, the airport is closed, and everybody, again, on Grand Cayman, you'll be just fine. But the sister islands over here, Little Cayman and Cayman Brac, that's going to be a different story. The center of Oscar. Come on, Mark. The center of Rafael. Hey, sometimes you have just a slippage of who knows what, right? The guy that works in your brain gets the file name wrong. It is Rafael. We'll be watching Rafael as it probably goes right over the sister islands. And later today, I think around 5 p.m., that's just a good start time. I want to just set this up. I use Zoom. I've got like the Zoom Pro or whatever, and you can stream to YouTube from Zoom. And we're just going to stream this on YouTube and just watch it. You know, if you get bored of watching election count coverage tonight, switch on over to the YouTube channel, and I can get on there and chat with people, and let's watch as that center moves over, or very close to, the sister islands of the Cayman Islands. And you know, maybe there's people out there that would appreciate it, and you can share it. It'll be public, and we can watch and see what's going on. All right? So there it is, coming together. Got that look like it's trying to develop a well-defined core. On the tracking map, just to give you a bigger perspective of everything, still have a system in the eastern Pacific, although the chances of development for this East Pacific Invest Area 93, odds are going down. This is our feature in the Atlantic. Odds are starting to go up a little bit. Already covered all this basically. But there is our tropical storm, soon to be hurricane. And again, the official forecast track takes the center of the center, that's what these lines are, the middle of the center, like literally, it's a geographic point. That latitude and longitude, that's what that means, right over the sister islands here. And any wobble, I mean, you notice this slight deviation from the 11 a.m. or 10 a.m., whatever it is, track. It is just a little bit east of track with the center on the 1 p.m. update. So those wobbles, yeah, they'll be somewhat significant in terms of which of the sister islands gets the core or the worst winds and whatnot. But that's what the track map looks like. And then, of course, it comes up towards Cuba, which will take a direct hit. And then into the Gulf of Mexico we go with Rafael, not Oscar. And, yeah, it's interesting. The GFS has been keeping it trying to go up here into Mobile Bay, but the other models have been showing a stronger ridge and a weaker system, allowing it to move more westward. And it looks like that's probably what's going to happen. That it's not going to end up in Mobile Bay, that it will end up a little bit more west over time as dry air that's going to be lurking all around here and some strong upper level wind activity reduces the overall footprint of the would-be hurricane at that point. And it's just going to end up dissipating basically in the Gulf. You don't see that very often. All right, let's look at a few analysis tools, a few things to point out to you. Obviously, we have a well-defined system here, so there is Rafael. That's the energy that we have to watch that could try to come together and develop something and eventually head towards Florida with it. And then we got to watch all this stuff out here, Is this going to try to get into the Caribbean? And as I'll show you in the GFS, again, it's been real good at Genesis. We might have something else trying to develop out here. And that's what I'm saying. I think that ACE score is going to go up and up and up. And we could be into hyperactivity mode before too long. I'll talk about that more tomorrow, probably even on the live update. Water temperature anomalies, I know you're probably just sick and tired of seeing this, but this is a big reason why things are still so very busy. 1 degree Celsius pretty much all through here, warmer than average, and then 1, 2, and even 3 degrees Celsius in parts of the Gulf. Luckily, very dry air, that mid-level dry air is going to be prevalent. I have a brown. I can paint it in there. It's like the Bob Ross, right? What does he say? Like, run all the colors across the screen. We got brown in there. And that brown color I'm drawing on there would represent the dry air that's waiting for Rafael. You can tell I'm a Bob Ross fan, right? Who isn't? And that's going to help to really sap this thing. And thank goodness, because the water temperatures, my point being, before I got Bob Ross distracted, is that this water profile up here is warmer. Seriously, look at the legend. Those oranges and reds, you're talking 2 to 3 degrees Celsius warmer than the long-term average. So even though the water temperatures themselves, and I can show you that graphic here, are cooling off the 26 Celsius line, which is roughly 80, that's what you need for hurricanes, it doesn't matter. It's still warmer than average up here. But the saving grace will be the likely prevalence of that dry air, because it's November. We just don't have the deep humidity and thick columns of just ridiculously soupy air for these things to take advantage of. But nevertheless, the Gulf's still very warm overall for this system to take advantage of as it comes up here east of the Isle of Youth and then cuts across the Gulf, something like that. All of these water temperatures in here can continue to support Rafael's intensity. Now, let's go in the GFS. I'll show you how this pans out. This is the 850 millibar vorticity signature. It's very well defined, no doubt about it. A compact, well-defined hurricane. But then watch what happens. It turns westward and then starts to lose that definition, eventually making landfall, at least on the GFS here, by day 5 in southeast Louisiana, kind of coming around the ridge. And you can see the lower parts of the ridge sitting right here. See that? And then you have some troughing over here. That's your path of least resistance right through there. But that's where the models differ. Some models have a stronger ridge in here, so it sends Rafael more off to the west. And I can show you that as we go forward as well. Then you see the next feature coming in here, trying to sneak in there through the Florida Straits. It does try to get going over here, just northeast and north of the Virgin Islands. In fact, there's a nice little feeder band indicated in the vorticity signature here. Brent and Tim down there, who's a brand new father, by the way, our good friend Timothy Olive, and our friends in Puerto Rico over here, as this slides through, we got to watch this. These sneaky systems out here in November, we're not used to it. So we got to pay attention to more than just, is it a hurricane? And I think, viewers of my videos know that it's all about the impacts. So let me show you this from a different perspective real quick. First of all, the lower wind field, Rafael comes through the Caribbean, pretty stout, could maybe reach Category 2. That wouldn't surprise me. Certainly stronger than that. Wouldn't surprise me either. Nothing this year is going to shock me. But watch what happens. It does lose that wind field real quick as it makes landfall here. But if the GFS is absolutely spot on, this little angle right here, even a depression coming in, your onshore flow up there, you'd still get a 2 or 3 foot, maybe more, storm surge. And that would be pretty wild for November the 10th. I will be watching that closely, because if it's going to make landfall and still be a named storm, I'm going to be there, because that's kind of historic, even if it is kind of weak. I don't care. It's about the impacts and the historic significance of it. But as I'm going to show you on the Euro, it may never ever get there. We'll see. The other thing I want to show you, look, it leaves Cuba, and it's 980 millibars, and it's humming right along, and it's got a pretty good moisture envelope with it. Some of that moisture, though, coming around that high there, getting pulled north, where we do need the rain. Even though we had the terrible flooding up here, you could still use a little bit of rain. I mean, what a shock to the system that was, right? Now every time you get heavy rain, wow, that's going to be a problem for many years to come for people up there. But it has been darn dry lately. And speaking of dry, watch what happens with our system. It's going along. It's like, oh boy, maybe this tries to do something. But then the dry air does get involved. It starts to really lose its definition. And the browns replace the greens. And it is lights out for our system as a bona fide, well-defined tropical system there, tropical cyclone. And then that trough comes in and grabs it and show's over at that point. All right? So that's what the GFS shows. We're going to come back to this in a minute. So let's leave that there. Let me compare this with the Euro real quick. Of course, there's our feature right there, Rafael. Keep your eyes on it. The Euro a little bit different, maybe even a lot different than the GFS in the long term. Short term, they're very much in agreement. But watch, the Euro, much more to the south. So it would probably stay stronger longer. That's 3 days. There's 4, 5, 6, and then it's just gone for the most part by day 7. And the Euro barely shows anything with this feature. And I'm going to tell you something. If this does go on to develop, that'll be another proof positive that the GFS is really, really good at the genesis, figuring out when these things are going to develop in the first place. But back to Rafael, the Euro has different plans. But look, this would make it last, excuse me, still battling the remnants of that stupid cold. This would still, if it hung around this long, it would add more ace points, to be honest with you, and kind of churn up the Gulf a little bit. So we'll watch and see. Let's go and look real quick at hours 96 versus the Euro versus the GFS here. Take the GFS out to 96 hours. Not a huge difference, but yeah, pretty marked overall. Now, back to the GFS. I'm going to come back on real quick because we're getting ready to wrap things up. We got these two potential features. Certainly Rafael is not potential, it's there. But the other feature, and then watch what happens. There's a little piece of energy coming into the Eastern Caribbean at hour 96 here. Drop me back out. Keep your eye on this right down here. And as I move this on out to day 5, which is right there, and then day 6 here, and day 7, is the GFS going to score another amazing Genesis, like parameter? Like, wow, like that's amazing. And if it happens that the GFS is just picking these things out, it could be spurious. It is a week out. I realize that. But run after run, the GFS is trying to cook something up over here post-Rafael. So we're going to have to watch that. Our friends in Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, elsewhere, season looks like it could be far from over. And just watch how the pattern is. It just kind of makes sense. These systems rolling in. You can see all 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it does fit the pattern. So we're going to have to watch that very closely as we go on through this very busy time, even for November. All right, made it through without complete coughing fits and whatever. I tell you what, you want to have a lot of fun, sarcasm, go get yourself an upper respiratory infection, and your life will just be swimmingly amazing. It's not severe. It's just, as I've said, and I know you're getting sick of hearing of this, extremely annoying. The morning update today, I could barely speak. It just takes time. It's a viral infection probably. And even if it's COVID or RSV or whatever, nothing you can do. You just have to rest, eat, and exercise and hope it eventually goes away. Kind of like the hurricane season that keeps on coming at us. Hey, there you go. It's a good way to tie everything together. You guys have a good rest of your Tuesday. And we'll see what happens with everything going on in the lower 48, right? And Alaska and Hawaii, they're not discounted from that. Seriously, a big, important day. We'll see what happens when we get up tomorrow. That'll be interesting for sure. And I'll stay on top of this with Rafael. Again, 5 p.m. today, I'll put the Cayman radar on YouTube so you can watch that. And then I will see you again at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning on YouTube Live. And we'll see what's happening with Rafael and everything else. From all of us at HurricaneTrack, I am Mark Sutta. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again tomorrow.